You saved up your down payment, but that's just the cover charge. The hidden costs of buying a home will absolutely drain you. Let me show you the real math.
You're sitting on the floor of your empty new living room, surrounded by stacked cardboard boxes that smell like damp cardboard and regret. You're eating cold pizza straight from the box because you can't find the plates, and your bank account is hovering right above zero. You look at your phone, and there it is, a text from your lender asking for another $3,000 for something called an escrow shortage. You blink. You rub your eyes. You just gave these people your entire life savings 48 hours ago. You think to yourself, nobody told me it would be like this. Look, if you're even thinking about buying your first home, or if you're currently saving up for that down payment and watching Zillow listings like they're the final season of your favorite show, this is the video you need to watch before you do anything else. Seriously, stop scrolling. Pay attention, because what nobody tells you about buying your first home will absolutely drain you if you let it. The hidden costs will shock you, and the system is literally designed to keep you in the dark until it's too late. Here's the thing. We've all been sold this absolute fairy tale about homeownership. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You see it on Instagram. A young, attractive couple standing in front of a white picket fence, holding up a shiny new key, smiling like they just won the lottery. The caption says, "Officially adulting," or "Escaped the rent trap." And look, I get it. Renting feels like you're throwing money into a bottomless pit. You're paying your landlord's mortgage, you can't even paint the walls without asking permission, and every year your lease goes up. It feels like you're running on a treadmill while everyone else is running on a track. But buying a house? Society tells you it's the ultimate milestone. It's the American dream. It's the smart financial move. And while that can be true, the way it's presented to you is fundamentally flawed. It's like being told that buying a car is just about the sticker price on the window, and then nobody mentions you also have to pay for gas, insurance, oil changes, new tires, and the inevitable time the transmission blows up on the highway. We need to challenge this problem early, because if you go into the home buying process only thinking about the down payment and the mortgage rate, you're setting yourself up for a financial nightmare that could take you a decade to recover from. So let's strip away the fluff. Let's throw out the Zillow fantasies and talk about what buying a house actually costs, down to the last miserable penny. Imagine for a second that you're watching one of those cutout construction paper style animations. You see a happy little character you standing in front of a house. A big price tag drops from the sky. Let's say the house is $400,000. You've been told your whole life that you need 20% down. So, you do the math. $80,000. You scrimp, you save, you eat rice and beans for 3 years, and you finally get that $80,000. You hand it over to the bank, you get the keys, and boom, you're a homeowner, right? Wrong. So incredibly wrong. That $80,000 is just the cover charge to get into the club. It doesn't cover the drinks, the VIP room, or the bouncer who's about to toss you out on the street. Let's talk about the first hidden monster hiding under the bed: closing costs. According to a recent study by Zillow, the average homebuyer pays between 2% and 5% of the purchase price in closing costs. On a $400,000 home, that's an extra $8,000 to $20,000. And here's the sick part. This is money that does not go toward your equity. It doesn't go toward your house. It just vanishes into the pockets of the people who facilitated the transaction. It's like paying a cover charge at a restaurant just for the privilege of being allowed to look at the menu. What are you actually paying for? Oh, it's a laundry list of things that sound completely made up. You're paying for an appraisal, which is basically paying someone to tell you that the house is actually worth the money the bank is lending you. You're paying for title insurance, which protects the lender in case the previous owner's long-lost cousin shows up and claims he owns the garage. You're paying for underwriting fees, processing fees, courier fees. Yes, they literally charge you to drive a piece of paper across town. Credit check fees, and the ever-mysterious administrative fees. Look, I remember buying my first place. I was sitting at the long wooden table, pen in hand, sweat beading on my forehead. The escrow officer slides this massive stack of papers in front of me. I get to the closing disclosure page, and my heart just drops. There are thousands of dollars in fees I had never even heard of. When I asked about a specific $200 document preparation fee, the lady just shrugged and said, "It's standard." Standard. It's standard to charge me $200 for you to hit print on your HP LaserJet? It's infuriating, but you can't negotiate most of it at that point. You just sign, or you lose the house. So, right out of the gate, your $80,000 down payment just became a $100,000 cash outlay. But wait, we're just getting warmed up. Let's talk about the actual house itself. Here's where the metaphor gets real. Buying a house is like adopting a giant, incredibly expensive, and completely unpredictable pet. You don't just pay for the dog, right? You pay for the food, the vet bills, the toys it destroys in 5 minutes, and the carpet cleaner when it has an accident. A house is exactly the same, except instead of chewing your shoes, it decides to flood your basement at 2 in the morning. There is a rule of thumb in real estate that nobody tells first-time buyers, and it is the most important piece of information you will ever hear: the 1% rule for maintenance. This rule states that you should expect to spend, on average, 1% of your home's purchase price on maintenance every single year. So, on a $400,000 house, that's $4,000 a year. That's $333 a month that you need to be setting aside, just for the privilege of keeping the house from falling apart. And let me tell you, that number is probably too low right now. With inflation in the housing and labor markets over the last few years, you should probably be budgeting closer to 1.5 or even 2%. That's $6,000 to $8,000 a year. Why? Because when you rent, your landlord is the one getting the phone call when the HVAC system dies. When you own, you are the landlord. And HVAC systems don't die on a mild Tuesday in April. They die in the middle of a blizzard or during a record-breaking heat wave, and suddenly, you're not just paying for a repair, you're paying emergency weekend rates. Imagine this. You're standing in your kitchen, and you hear a drip. You look up, and there's a water stain forming on the ceiling. It's growing. It's dripping onto your hardwood floors. You call a plumber. He comes out, looks at it, rubs his chin, and says, "Yeah, we've got a burst pipe in the wall. It's going to be $2,000 to open the wall, fix the pipe, and patch it up. Oh, and you'll need a water restoration company to dry out the framing. That's another $1,500. And you'll need a painter to fix the ceiling. That's another $1,000. Boom. $4,500 gone. Just like that, because a piece of plastic decided to give out. When you rent, a drip is an inconvenience. When you own, a drip is a financial emergency. But let's move past the sudden emergencies. Let's talk about the slow, quiet leaks in your wallet, the stealth costs. Property taxes. Property taxes. If you're a first-time buyer, you're probably looking at your mortgage payment and thinking, I can afford this. But here's the psychological trap. Your lender probably gave you an estimate that includes your property taxes in your monthly payment, which goes into an escrow account. But they estimate that based on the previous year's tax assessment. Here's the shocking reveal. In many states, when a house is sold, the city or county reassesses the value of the home based on the new, higher purchase price. So, the previous owner was paying taxes on a home valued at $250,000. You buy it for $400,000. Next year the taxman cometh, and suddenly your tax bill nearly doubles. Your escrow account doesn't have enough money to cover it. You get a letter in the mail, an escrow shortage notice. Not only do you owe the difference, but your monthly mortgage payment is permanently increased to cover the new, higher tax rate for the next year. I've seen people's mortgages go up by $300, $400, even $500 a month in the first year. They are completely blindsided. They budgeted for $2,000 a month, and now they're paying $2,500. That's a car payment. And it doesn't stop there. Let's talk about homeowners insurance. The cost of insurance has been skyrocketing. With all the extreme weather events, wildfires, hurricanes, deep freezes in places that aren't used to them, insurance companies are jacking up premiums or pulling out of states entirely. You might buy a house and get a policy for $1,500 a year, only to find out at renewal that it's jumped to $3,000. Another monthly cost spike that you have absolutely no control over. Then there's the HOA, the Homeowners Association. The neighborhood fund police listen. Not all HOAs are bad, but you need to understand what you're getting into. That monthly HOA fee covers the community pool and the landscaping, right? Sure, until the HOA decides the roofs in the neighborhood need replacing, or the siding is rotting, and the reserve fund is empty. When that happens, they levy a special assessment. A special assessment is a fancy legal term for surprise. You owe us $10,000 by next Tuesday. I have seen young couples financially ruined by special assessments. They bought a townhome because the HOA fee was only $200 a month, which seemed manageable. 6 months later, the HOA votes to repave all the parking lots and fix the drainage, and every homeowner is hit with an $8,000 bill. If you don't pay it, they can put a lien on your house and foreclose on you. Read that again. They can take your house over a parking lot. Are you starting to see the picture here? The hidden costs are everywhere. But we haven't even touched the most insidious hidden cost of them all. The one that nobody, and I mean nobody, talks about because it doesn't show up on a bank statement or a tax bill. It's the hidden cost of opportunity. In finance, we call this opportunity cost. It's the potential benefit you lose when you choose one alternative over another. When you take $80,000 or $100,000 and you pour it into a down payment and closing costs, that money is gone. It is locked up in the walls of that house. You can't eat it, you can't spend it, and it's not earning you any returns in the stock market. Here's a shocking statistic to put that in perspective. According to data from the S&P 500, the historical average annual return for the stock market is around 7%, adjusted for inflation. If you took that $100,000 and put it in an index fund instead of a down payment in 10 years, without adding another penny, it would grow to nearly $200,000. In 20 years, it would be almost $400,000. Now, yes, your house might appreciate in value too, but the reality is historically, real estate appreciation barely outpaces inflation. It's around 3 to 4% a year, and that appreciation is on the whole value of the house, not just your down payment, which is the magic of leverage, but that leverage works against you when you factor in all the interest you pay the bank over 30 years, plus the taxes, plus the maintenance. The opportunity cost is the money you didn't make because your cash was trapped in a down payment. It's the business you couldn't start because you didn't have the startup capital. It's the career change you couldn't make because you were chained to a mortgage in a specific city. It's the investments you couldn't take advantage of during a market crash because your emergency fund was wiped out by a broken sewer line. When you buy a house, you're trading liquidity for stability, and most first-time buyers drastically underestimate how much they will miss that liquidity when life happens. Let me tell you a story about a couple I know. Let's call them Mark and Sarah. Mark and Sarah were the perfect first-time buyers. They had good jobs, a solid credit score, and they saved up $50,000. They found a cute little fixer-upper in a nice neighborhood. The house was $350,000. They put 10% down, which was $35,000. Closing costs ate up another $10,000. They had $5,000 left in savings. They thought, we're fine. We'll build the savings back up. 3 weeks after they moved in, it rained, and it rained hard. Water started pouring through the living room ceiling. Turns out the roof was 20 years old, which they knew, but the home inspector said it had a few years left. Well, it didn't. A new roof? $12,000. They didn't have $12,000. They had to put it on a credit card at 22% interest. Then the old water heater gave out the next month, another $2,000 on the card. Within 6 months of buying their dream home, Mark and Sarah were $15,000 in high-interest credit card debt. Their mortgage payment went up by $200 because of a property tax reassessment, and they were fighting about money every single night. They were house poor. They had a beautiful house, but they couldn't afford to go out to dinner. They couldn't afford to travel, and they were one missed paycheck away from disaster. That is the reality for millions of first-time homebuyers, and it completely destroys the romance of the American dream. So, how do we stop this from happening to you? I'm not here to just complain and tell you the system is rigged and leave you out in the cold. I'm frustrated with how this system operates, but I genuinely want you to succeed. I want you to build wealth. And I want you to be happy in your home. So here is the actionable advice, the playbook for buying your first home without destroying your financial life. First, you must completely redefine what you can afford. The bank will tell you that you can afford a mortgage that takes up 30, sometimes even 40% of your gross monthly income. Gross income. That is the money you make before taxes. Here's the thing. Nobody lives on their gross income. You live on your net income. You need to calculate your housing budget based on your take-home pay, and you should aim to keep your total housing payment, mortgage, taxes, insurance, and HOA fees under 25% of your net income. Yes, this means you might have to buy a smaller house or a house in a slightly less trendy neighborhood. But the peace of mind you get from having thousands of dollars left over every month is worth more than any granite countertop or extra bathroom. Second, you need to build a house bomb fund. This is separate from your regular emergency fund. Your emergency fund is for when you lose your job or you have a medical crisis. Your house bomb fund is for when the house tries to kill your finances. Before you close on a house, you should have at least 5% of the purchase price in cash, sitting in a high-yield savings account, earmarked exclusively for immediate repairs and surprises. If you're buying a $400,000 house, you need another $20,000 in the bank after the down payment and closing costs. If you don't have it, you're not ready to buy. Period. You're just rolling the dice with your financial future. Third, never, ever waive the inspection to win a bidding war. I don't care how hot the market is. I don't care if the seller says there are 5 other offers. This is the biggest trap of the current real estate market. People are so desperate to win the house that they agree to buy it sight unseen, or they waive their right to an inspection. That is absolute insanity. You're making the largest financial commitment of your life, and you're not even going to look under the hood? A $500 inspection can save you from a $50,000 foundation problem. If the seller won't let you inspect the house, walk away. Let someone else buy the ticking time bomb. Fourth, when you're calculating your budget, assume your property taxes and insurance will go up in year 2. Don't just look at what the current owner is paying. Call the county assessor's office and ask what the taxes will be on the new assessed value. Get an insurance quote before you make an offer, so you know exactly what you're getting into. Build a 10 to 15% buffer into your monthly housing budget. If the numbers don't work with that buffer, the house is too expensive for you right now. And finally, consider the alternative. I want you to challenge the narrative that renting is inherently bad. Renting is not throwing money away. Renting is paying a fixed maximum monthly cost for housing. When you rent, your rent is the absolute most you will spend on housing that month. When you own, your mortgage is the minimum you will spend on housing that month. It can always go up. If you can rent a place that allows you to save aggressively, invest in the stock market, and maintain your mobility, renting might actually be the mathematically superior choice for you right now. You can invest the difference between your rent and what your mortgage would be, and you can build wealth without the crushing weight of property taxes, broken furnaces, and escrow shortages. Do not let societal pressure push you into a house you can't afford just to hit some arbitrary milestone. Look, buying a home can be an amazing experience. It can provide stability, a sense of community, and yes, over a long period of time, it can be a part of your wealth-building strategy. But it is not a magic ticket. It is a complex, expensive, and sometimes incredibly frustrating process that requires a level of financial maturity that most people are never taught. When you understand the hidden costs, the closing costs, the maintenance, the tax hikes, the HOAs, and the opportunity cost, you stop being a victim of the system and you start being the architect of your own financial life. You can walk into that closing with your eyes wide open, knowing exactly what you're signing up for. You can budget for the leaks, plan for the broken AC, and still have money left over to live your life. You don't have to be like Mark and Sarah, eating cold pizza on the floor, drowning in credit card debt, wondering where it all went wrong. You can be the person who buys the house on your own terms, with cash in the bank, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that you are in control. Take a breath. Do the math. Save the buffer, and when you're ready, go buy that house the right way. You've got this. See you in the next video. Like and subscribe for more video like this. If you have any question for me, leave a comment down below. I would be happy to help.